welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage. I will probably say that, you probably won't be able to see me soon because I'll be retiring from the stripping world pretty soon. Likely 2025, very soon, we'll be done with that. But you can catch my show next week on December 6th at my old home club, the Penthouse Nightclub. You can check it out. You can get tickets at avafitness.ca. If you happen to be in Vancouver, Canada, that's where you can see me. I won't be dancing naked there though, because it's for a holiday showcase. So FYI. But please stick around, tip your strippers, do your thing. That is your only responsibility is to do that. And if not, we have online ways of getting paid. So you can also do that as well. That's one thing. I am a dancer. I started off in the industry as a sugar baby over a decade ago. And now I'm a cam model, adult content creator, all the things. A lot of things you'll hear. You know that sex workers love to bounce around in lots of different areas, as you'll also hear in today's story, because it's pretty commonplace for being in this industry and trying to diversify as much as we can. We will be talking about balancing, moving in to different mediums and different forms of sex work, what transition looks like, because I feel like no one really talks about the transition part and how awkward and weird it is and scary it can be. So we'll be talking about that with our esteemed guest, who I will announce soon. Unless you've read in the title, then good for you. But before we dive into things, I just want to say hello to our lovely Patreon subscribers. Thank you for always supporting since season 4. It's now season 7, so thank you so much. Your financial support is helping fund my website, strippedbysia.com, and enables me to go to adult industry events like the AVNs and XBiz and fun stuff like that. So I'm hoping to maybe make the one in LA. I'm not sure if I'll be at the AVNs this year, but we shall see. It's just an excuse for me to go to Vegas, basically. So, and see friends. So we shall see if that is in the cards for January, basically. But just want to say hello to those who are on the top tier. Hi, Snoo from Germany. We've got Reina from Sweden, Dale Flood from Vancouver, Canada. We've got Dan from Red Door Products from Seattle. We've also got Bia York from Seattle, Eric Arajo, Geyser, and McKenna King from Edmonton, Canada. Thank you guys so much for always supporting on that top tier. There's always like lower tiers as well, not saying that they're devalued or anything, but you just get more. The more you subscribe, you get more bonuses, video exclusive access to all of the episodes from season 4 onwards. And some really, really cool bonus content that's up there right now. I just did a speech at the Wish Gala last night at the time of recording. We also have some other really interesting things. Article that I'm working on for one of the big newspapers here in Vancouver. So it's really, really cool. So if you want to keep in touch and kind of be connected in a different way, you can do that on Patreon, which is patreon.com/strippedbysia. And we have tiers starting for as low as $4 a month. And your support would be greatly appreciated. There's really cool people that are in that group too. So come chat, come mingle, and come hang with us on Patreon. Going back to our guest and the topics at hand, balancing act, transition, weird, awkward things, anxiety, not knowing anything and navigating blindly through a lot of sex work. We'll be talking about that today. And it's a jumbled up topic, but I feel like a lot of us do go through that because a lot of us are involved in different forms of sex work. And I have our great guest on today. She goes by the name Sage Hunter. And you might know her from a lot of different mediums, from Loyal Fans, from OnlyFans. She's also a feature dancer as well, I believe a cam model, and overall adult content creator, and just debuting into the porn scene right now as well. She does all the things, so please give her a warm welcome. We've got Sage Hunter joining us on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you. I love being on here because I love your podcast and the fact that you're a sex worker too, and not just someone where like I love people who interview sex workers and want to hear our side. And our story
Mm-hmm.
is so different when the person interviewing is also a sex worker and gets it.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot, especially in the adult podcast space. Unfortunately, there's like a lot of like bro-y type of guys that are doing it just for the content and like the virality and sensationalism. And I'm not about that life. So,
No, like I don't want it to be like behind closed doors you don't support sex workers and you would like knock them at the chance you get, but
yes.
you will make money off of us on your podcasts and stuff like that.
Yes.
But also like I haven't
Yes.
seen that many women be like podcast, like, is it like the right word, owner? Like I don't like,
Yeah, like or like host or like producer. Yeah, there's not a lot of.
I wish there was, but I haven't seen that many, so I'm very fortunate that you are.
Thank you. I'll give you some good recommendations, by the way. There are a good handful of us out there that are still doing it and are like really great. I'll just say it now, like Jessie Sage's podcast. She has a new one. We also have Melrose Michaels. Who else do I listen to? Those ones are ones I'm currently listening to right now. Stripper writer, depending on how you feel about her. I think she's great.
I love her.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
Elle Strange.
Yes, yes, we love her.
We
Elle
love
Stranger.
her.
I've been listening to her for a long time, and oh my god, now you're reminding me I should bring her on to the show at some point.
Oh, shit.
I'll make a note of that in my brain.
I'm now learning she has a podcast where like I've read a lot of
Podcast
her
plural.
stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was like a stripper god for us strippers out there. So, and lots of really great nuanced topics she covers. But shout out to those. Those are the ones I currently listen to. So,
Yeah, like I fangirl
yeah, like
followed Emotional Stripper back and I'm like, what?
yeah, I mean, well, speaking of mediums and speaking of podcasts, we're going to be talking about you and like all the things that you've achieved over your career. But actually, what? I'm going to throw it back because I always give the opportunity for my guests to describe themselves in their own words and terms. Because I also think that's really important because yes, we have our persona here that we like to show on the internet or wherever, and like I know what I know of you from what I find on the internet and what I've like the time that I've stalked you in terms of like I need to do some research on her. But I think it's fair to give each guest um you know their own introduction. So Sage, how would you describe yourself? Who is Sage Hunter according to Sage Hunter?
Sage Hunter, according to Sage Hunter, is a very broad and fluid concept, essentially, where I have done all sort like literally every umbrella of sex work imaginable, I think. Like I cannot like there's not anything I can think of that I have not done in the last decade. And
We've tried it all.
basically where it's like trial and error was real. And then now I am just doing adult content, whether it's like making my own on OnlyFans, mainstream porn, dancing, and then like doing my blog. I don't really consider that sex work at all, but it's like only about sex
Adjacent.
work.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah, I
will
get you.
still like see certain clients from time to time kind of thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's me.
Yeah. That's actually a great transition. Like, why don't we talk about how you got started? I know we talked a little bit off air, but I'd love to hear. And I'm sure the audience is also really curious in like what your story is. How did you fall into this line of work? How did you purposely choose this line of work? Let's reword that.
So before like being 18, it was like me growing up with the idea of like not even just like being hot was awesome kind of thing, like with Girls Gone Wild and stuff like that, and like
Mm-hmm.
Playboy Mansion and everything like that. It was more, I didn't see it as like, oh, I want to be them because of like their looks and how they got there kind of thing. It was more, these girls are geniuses for getting to where they are, but they
Yes.
use their looks in some way, but they use their brain a lot more than people will ever give credit for. And I want to know how that happened. So then,
Thank you for saying that. I
always,
love that.
and so I was like fascinated. And so I'm like, what is it about them? Because it's like men and women, mainly men though, are like spending so much money on them without having a problem, because something about their personality is just drawing them in and keeping them there, whether it's a genuine persona or not. It's like whatever the fuck they're doing, it's working. And they're also just engaging as people. And that's why they had so many viewers too. And so when I was 18, immediately signed up for Seeking Arrangements.
Oh my god. Should I be triggered at this point, or should I be like intrigued? I also did the same thing, not when I was 18, but like that was like my first entry into sex work, not knowing it was sex work. In my mind, it wasn't sex work because I was like, it's not. I'm not one of those people.
No,
Obviously,
right.
my
My
views have
brain
changed.
too. I'm like, wait, this is where you just go. Because, like, it advertised on the website of just like, you can meet rich men or like eligible, whatever, for like dinner dates and things like that. Where I'm like, I can get paid to just go to dinner and then go home. They're not going to expect anything crazy.
And you're like, okay. And then, like, when you're into it, you're like, oh, this is a little different than what is advertised on their tagline.
1000%. Because then I'd read bios and I'm like, they'd be back then. That's when Seeking Arrangements, in my opinion, at least, was good. Was like 10 years ago, and it got
Yes.
shitty like within the last 5. And it was just like
Yeah.
really discreet bios where I'm like, they're not saying sex, and in the messages to me, they're not saying sex. So I'm like, cool. I'm gonna do this like $200 fucking dinner. That's awesome. And then at the end of dinner, I was like, so wait, are you going to come to my hotel to give me a blowjob? And I'm like, wait, what? That's what this is for?
Oh
Or
my
is this just like a
god.
one-off? I don't know.
Wow. You know what? Like, I laugh because I have been in that exact seat and in that situation. And it's like so naive. And you're like, but you're also, you were way younger when you got into it. Like, you were 18, like super young.
Yeah,
And
I did my research. I thought I did my research, and then clearly I apparently didn't, because I'm like, oh yeah, why else would a guy pay me like at the time like $200 to go to dinner and not expect anything in return or whatever? Where now I've learned to, I feel like when you get older, you actually get clients that will actually
Mhm.
genuinely take you to dinner and pay you to just go to dinner. Whereas when
Yes.
you're 18, I had like the worst clients ever.
Oh my god. And like they weren't even like clients. Like I wouldn't even say that to myself at that age.
No, I had like
And
maybe
like
like 3 regular sugar daddies, but they weren't that generous if I'm to like look back on it.
mhm.
But they were like the people I saw the most regular, whereas the other ones were like essentially one night stands that I didn't
Yes.
have. It was just like they never called me again. So I'm like,
Girl, same. I know exactly what you went through. Oh my gosh. This is oh my god. I have thoughts and feelings. And you know, I haven't done an episode specifically on sugaring because it's so triggering to me.
I
I
don't
will do it. I will do it. It's my goal within the season to do an episode on sugaring because I have so many thoughts and feelings on it. But we were talking off air, Sage, earlier about like, you know, like back in the day, we only had Google, and there honestly wasn't like a ton of stuff on Google at that time that was like readily available. That was like I don't know, I felt like things were really kind of gatekeepy
They're
back
super
then.
gatekeepy because also like my friends, like when we were like 22, it's like that's when my friends told me that they also dabbled in this, but like a year
Mm.
after I did, or like a few the same year that I did. But it was just no one talked about it, and I'm like, I'm literally was asking you guys for any forms of advice, and no one. Like, okay,
That's
And so
so
yeah, no,
frustrating.
having Google is your only thing. It's like I didn't even know that screening was a word. That was not in my vocabulary in any possible form.
Oh my
So it's
gosh,
like
screening like never existed for
no,
me when
and
I
so
was a
it's
sugar
like,
baby.
yeah, and so it's like if you know, you know. Like if you were 18 or like at whatever age you were when it first started, like however long ago, before people knew what screening was, it's like you're showing up at random hotels or random restaurants and places or houses or whatever with literally no idea what the fuck to expect. And looking back on it, I'm like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah, it's so dangerous. like,
Like, why isn't
like,
there shit on how to screen people? Like, because I've done research on this for my blog. Of like,
hmm
there's not really any information on screening unless you like find like specific sex worker pages, but it's not like a one
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and like there's a lot more resources now, but like back then there wasn't much. Like it was like one of those things, at least in my experience, like with sugaring, it was like a don't ask, don't tell kind of situation. It was very like hush hush. And I understand where your friends were coming from because the work was so stigmatized. Like for me, in my mind, I was like, I'm not even gonna be involved with this. Like I am not one of them. That's like I'm doing this as like a business meeting. I'm like doing it to expand my opportunities for my business or whatever. Like that's what I would convince myself or like tell myself in my brain.
No, yeah, like in my head too. It's just, like it was so weird when I like hit. I think it was like 21 when I realized this because then I was like in the club then. Was like
hmm
this is so weird. Where I'm like, oh wait, I guess I do have internalized horophobia at that point because I didn't want to admit, like, in my own terms, like, I'm technically being a whore, but not in like where a way that I would be like, oh fuck, that's what happened. Then in my head, I'm like, I just never wanted to admit that because I was judging myself and I was like terrified of being judged by everyone else and everything like that. So that's when I realized, like, fuck, we all have some internalized things in
Or
us.
phobia, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I think it's in every umbrella of sex work for sure.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just more like if you reflect upon it and see, like, if you do any form of sex work and ask yourself, why do I feel weird about doing it? And I feel like that's usually the reason why, unless, like, besides like trauma or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Sage. Like it's and that's a whole nother topic too with horophobia. Like that's still a thing that's so rampant. And if people are listening and maybe it's your first time listening to the show, you don't know what horophobia is. It's like internalized hatred towards either like other forms of sex work or like I don't know judgment, competition, that kind of stuff. Like for example, like the example that I give people a lot, like there's like almost like a triangle. On the top of the triangle, there's like say like cam models and then it's like strippers and it goes down to like indoor sex workers and then it goes to like street-based sex workers. So the more contact you have, and this is only one example, but this is the example I've referenced a lot. Like it's like, oh well, like cam models, like we don't have any contact with people and we're not having sex with people, so we're better or like we're not as like dirty, quote unquote, I'm saying this all in quotations, like as dirty as those other whores.
Yeah.
But like we're all whores. So like let's be real, we're all whores.
So like wild because that was the example that like I would use all the time too. And then I heard from
Hmm
people who like when I would vent about my life and stuff back a few years ago, and like people who I have that's friends on like Twitter or whatever who only can, they're like, oh, well, that sucks that this is like what's happening to you, but like I can't even imagine what that would be like because I would never. That's why I just stream and like that's why I just make my own solo content or my own content only with my boyfriend. And I'm like,
hmm
okay, way to put yourself on the fucking high horse of morals here. You don't need to be a dick
Right.
about it. Like, we're all chickens
Yeah.
in the same bag, and we're all in the same stigmatized umbrella where the normal quote unquote society is still going to knock you for that, just they might do it slightly less.
Right. Right. I mean, it's terrible. It's really terrible. And this like is even within others like categories of sex work, because sex work is the umbrella, and then there's branches of sex work. Even within those specific branches of sex work, there's still whorephobia even with that. Like, so for example, like with escorting, it's like, oh, like high-end escorts versus, okay, people that are like, for survival street workers and stuff too. And like I can go like on and on
No, like
on and on with this
in
topic.
mainstream porn, it blew my mind that I've noticed this, at least in my experience. I don't know if this is everyone else's, but in mainstream porn, that is where I've experienced the most judgment if you have ever escorted prior or if you currently do. And in my head, I'm like, if
Mm,
you're doing the same things, because again, like I came from that. So to me,
yeah,
I'm like, wait, what? Like I'm doing the
that's
exact
crazy.
same things with a person, but off camera, and I'm getting paid more. I'm
Yeah.
not having any like digital footprint of this ever happening. And I'm
Hmm.
doing the same exact safety precautions and now screening and stuff versus letting it be in the hands of, I hope this company or this person that I'm working with is a safe person, whatever. And because, like,
Hmm.
I'm not doing my screening in an agency because they do it for you.
They do for you. Yeah. It's just packaged differently.
Yeah. And it's like, you just hope they did it the same way that, like, that they treat you the same way that you would treat yourself if I was to screen
Hmm.
people for someone else or whatever. And it's
Hmm.
just, I've never understood that like insane judgment with that because I'm in my head, it's like
Yeah.
it's the same thing just without the camera.
Totally. That's like a complete double standard. And like, we don't talk about this stuff very often, like especially like for audience members, like if you're like a client or something like listening in and stuff, like we never chat about this stuff. And then I'm really glad that you're open to talking about this, because like again, it's the same shit, but just like repackaged with and tied with a bow in a certain situation, and like I feel like yes, there's still like you're still screening in terms of like medically speaking, but like even in porn, there's so many predators that come into like in the porn industry specifically too, and that's like another thing that we need to speak up on too. And it's just like people are so scared of like not getting booked, not getting work and stuff for speaking out. But I'm just like, do you want these abusers to continue to work in our circles and continue to harm women and trans folks? Like, not okay.
Oh, exactly. And like what I like about escort world is like, you know, that one app that I won't name because guys will use it to their advantage type thing, but like if you know, you know, for like that, it's like you can at least blacklist someone in the ways of if someone saw that information, they can choose to ever go see that person and stuff like that because they can read whatever like fucked up shit they did with whoever it is. Or it's like, but with porn, it's like, yeah, you can put someone on your no list or you can like out them on Twitter or whatever, but it's like the chances of them actually getting blacklisted from the industry is so low. It's basically like you're screaming into the void and you might as well just not even. And that
Yeah,
sucks.
and that's sad. That's sucks, and that is sad that that's a reality. That's just so crazy. But I'm glad that you're able to speak up a little bit here too. I mean, obviously, we're not going to name any names stuff like that, but like, I mean, and that's might sound ironic, but for our both of our protection, legally speaking. So, I know we veered off track a little bit, but like, I just felt like this is such a good tangent. We have to keep talking about this, which is awesome.
Like literally, it's not talked about.
Ever.
No.
Yeah. And even like some porn stars and stuff too, or just people in adult film specifically, and they are doing escorting on the side, and then they're like, oh, we cannot talk about this.
Dude, I've literally, when I entered mainstream, right? Because this was less than 8 months ago that I like like technically I was signed with an agency like a little over a year ago for 6 months, but I never got anything booked through them. So I'm like, I don't really count that time. But
Mm-hmm.
so for 8 months, I've been in mainstream. There are girls who will swear up and down that they have never done any forms of like meeting people outside, whatever. And
Okay.
all of this. And in my head, I'm like, I literally have done a duo with you, and that's the only reason why I know you. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That is so fucked. Like again, even that stigma like still exists, or is that just like code? Like you're just like the unspoken code in porn that you like can't talk about that? What the fuck is up with that?
I don't know. I'm like, I'm confused. If that means a company won't book me, that makes no sense because I'm fucking on your set. I'm fucking on every set, kind of thing. Why the fuck does it matter what I do in my personal life, so to speak, where I'm not at work and I'm not doing anything that would cause harm to anyone else? And
Right.
it's
Because you're
literally
still
only,
screening and testing and all that stuff
oh,
too,
yeah,
like
like if
inside and
anything,
outside.
yeah, like if anything, I am so careful about my health to like a degree where I'm borderline a germaphobe. So it's like,
That's a
I,
reality, though. That's a reality of a lot of adult workers. So, but sorry, we like totally got off here. I like we were talking about sugaring and then just like opened a can of worms, which I love. It's always welcome on my show because we like talk, we just dig deep on the show a lot. But
I love
going back to your timeline, Sage, I know you mentioned like around 20 in your early 20s, you're mentioning you started dancing at that time. And that's like, it just sounds like at that time you were developing a bit more boundaries and you've had a bit more work experience in the field as well. Like, tell us about that transition time and how you got into dancing at that point.
so with dancing, it's like I always really liked like Closer with Natalie Portman. Like it was always like stripping, just like it is now, was always glamorized to me too, but in like movies for me at least. Where I'm like, that's it looks fun, but I also like I never assumed it was easy money or anything that was like, oh cool, I can just go work for one night, make my rent, and like I can come back in like a month. Like I never had that thought. It was like I wanted to make more money to like invest in different things and just like do more and have more financial freedom. Because with my like one source of revenue that I was doing and like some OnlyFans stuff, because when I did OnlyFans first, it was before COVID. So it was like not really that known.
Yeah, I hear
And
you.
so, yeah. And so I'm like, wait, I can add another thing of things to do. And I actually would enjoy doing it because from clients, I've learned how to talk to like people that I have nothing in common with to people where we have everything in common. So
It's a
yeah,
skill.
I might need to learn how to dance. That's fine.
That
I'm up for it. And
can
so
be taught. It's all good.
yeah, and I'm like, I loved it. And it was so fun. And I learned so much about like boundaries, ironically, more from like client life because of a guy at the club was like trying to be gropey and rapey and stuff, basically. I'm like, wait, this isn't like my brain would process it and be like, wait a minute, you're not even asking me for my consent or my, you're just doing it. Like that's
Yeah.
not a normal thing in anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it took like when I would be working, I would try and like essentially be a house mom to everyone else
Oh,
that was
that's
like
cute.
18 and new because I would see girls like either in the dressing room or in like the locker room just like sad or disassociated, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going, like what happened, are you okay?
Yeah.
And it was like they they were always amazing and the sweetest people, and they were
Mm-hmm.
always like, because they were brand new and 18, I think is why they got targeted the most by men that would take advantage.
Yes,
So like they would
unfortunately.
tell me the saddest shit of like, a small example would be like, yeah, a guy in a dance like fingered me, but I didn't allow it, and I'm just taking like a break right now to like be able to go back out and work. And I'm like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, yeah, no, like it's fine though. And I'm like, no, like that's
No,
literally
it's not
that's
fine.
sexual assault. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's so weird because I feel like growing up as a woman, right? You learn, at least me, like I learned that if you are raped or sexually assaulted, it is the brutal kind that happens when you're walking in a parking lot or a garage or whatever, or when you're on a run.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not
Yeah.
something that essentially could make it to the news, it's not that. And it was so fucked up to realize, like, shit, okay, there's different levels, sure, but they're all shitty and shouldn't happen. And so seeing girls, including myself, like realize that all of these things happened and it's under that same umbrella, I'm like, oh my God, okay, there needs to be like more boundaries set. There needs to be a fucking community so that like people can fall back onto their own and be able to help someone if they need it.
That's so nice that you're able to come to, not that person's rescue, but like being there to comfort, because that can be so traumatizing when that happens. And unfortunately, like, just because we're in a profession that is sexualized does not mean it's okay that people are allowed to touch us this way, especially if we're not even we didn't consent to it. We didn't say yes. Like, it's just out of the blue. Like, why do people think that, like, clients, specifically men, I'm talking to you, like, why do you think you are entitled to put your hands on me if it's not invited? Like, why?
Oh yeah, and also like when it's been my experience in like clubs with alcohol specifically, like this happened more to me in clubs with alcohol, where I don't know why, because I in my head I'm like, guys get drunk if they want to go to it, like they'll pregame basically or bring a flask or whatever, regardless. But something about alcohol being physically there just did something, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like I'm visibly uncomfortable in this dance and telling you no. I'm moving your hands away. I'm telling you to fucking stop. Like, nothing about me is like laughing, being playful, or going along with it or anything like that. So, like, what the fuck in you is saying in your head that's justifying whatever the hell you're doing? Like, what kind of person are you that's making that okay? And are you like this? Because I call it like their personal life, like when they're outside of the club, of like, are you like this in your personal life? Or are you like a totally quote unquote normal person who would never
Yeah.
even dream to do that? And you just think because we're so sexualized that it's okay and a normal fucking thing.
Yeah. And a lot of it is that latter half, unfortunately. It's because, the dehumanizing aspect of our job, or like how they view us, like their perspective of us is like, well, I can do whatever the fuck I want to it because they're doing this line of work. They're asking for it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, we are not. We have our
No.
own boundaries.
Exactly. And it's just so crazy to me where I'm like, are you fucking like, no. That's not
Yeah.
how anything works. Where it's like, if there was stripper HR,
I wish
God
there
forbid,
was sometimes. Maybe there
it'd
wouldn't
be
be
so
strip
back.
clubs if there was stripper HR.
No, that's what I mean. Where it's like, it'd be a good thing technically, but also there'd be no strip clubs.
They wouldn't exist anymore because people think they could get away with shit all the time, right?
Yeah, it's like the HR. Like I imagine like that little like complaint box that like you just put a slip of paper in. It'd be overflowed every day, and it's like,
You would need like a
okay,
garbage can size HR box.
literally. And it's like,
I laugh because it's true though.
yeah.
Which
Like I
is really
remember
sad.
talking to one of my like just guy friends who's like done sex work but like online only. And when I wrote my blog about like the harsh realities of strip clubs, and he likes reading my blogs because he's like loves reading. And he's like, wait, what do you mean you like it's not a sorry, it's not an if it's gonna be like you being sexually assaulted, it's a when. And I'm like, exactly what that means. And he's like, you're telling me like every person I know that's a dancer has been like sexually assaulted. And I'm like, yeah, unless they just sat
Yeah.
in the locker room the entire night.
And
Yeah,
didn't make any money.
yeah. Like, or if they were there for 5 minutes, went on stage, and then went home.
Yeah, I mean, it's a harsh reality and a hard truth that sometimes people like just can't fathom, because like this shit would never fly in any other legitimized industry, and I'm saying that because like our people treat our industry as if it's not legitimized work at all, right?
I know, and I'm like, I'm paying taxes on shit that the government doesn't even like that I do. So literally shut the fuck up if this is a real job or not. Like if I'm making real, like even if you don't pay taxes type shit, it's like if you're making real money, that means real job.
Exactly. The end.
Hey everyone, it's Carly David. I'm the founder of PS Group. We're the creative marketing agency for sex workers by sex workers. We get it. Things are changing fast. Standing out in this industry is tougher than ever. But whether you need a killer website, eye-catching graphics, merch design, pro-level video editing, we got your back. Our fees are totally project-based too. We never work on percentages or commission. Visit us at sexworkmarketing.com, say hello, let's start a conversation, see how we can navigate these changes together.
Sorry, quick segue here. You did mention your blog, and I'm not sure if the audience knows that you have an amazing blog called The Emotional Stripper, which you founded, I think, in like 2022, I think it was when you started writing.
Yeah,
Or
so the
tell me,
blog,
correct me if I'm wrong.
oh no, so yeah, you're right with like the blog started at like 2022, but the page, like the Instagram was there in like 2021, 2020.
Oh wow,
Because
COVID times.
yeah, because I'm like, I wanted to be faceless at first because I didn't want it to be weird for like people at my club if they were like, they knew they were venting to me. And not in the ways of like Gossip Girl or whatever, where I'm like, I'm now the gatekeeper of your secrets and I can reveal them if I feel like it. Fuck you guys. It's like, no, I want to be there for you and I won't say shit to anyone about what it is. But I don't know if you'd feel comfortable if you knew it was someone that you knew. So that's why I was faceless for a while. And then I did a face reveal one because I'm like, what's the likelihood that people think this isn't even a person in the industry? Or they think it's like someone's boyfriend or whatever it is, or like a man trying to like profit off of this because there's not like that. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just did it,
they exist, unfortunately.
right? So that's why I'm like, fuck it, we're going face out. If it's weird, I apologize, kind of thing. But at least people can put a face to the person who's running it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm real. It's a real thing. I'm a real person with real feelings, and like, I don't know how I see it. It's like a nice like outlet, and a way and a means to express yourself and like have conversations, because a lot of time we have this like locker room talk in the change rooms, and like we talk about all the shit, which is fun, and I miss that a lot. But I think it's like so great to have that, and just to give people some kind of insight on what we actually go through. It's kind of like this blog, like this podcast. It's a different medium, a different forum. But yeah, tell us more about Emotional Stripper.
So Emotional Stripper got its like idea because kind of like with sugaring, I felt so alone in stripping because I didn't really have friends that were dancers. And the ones that I did have, it's like they didn't dance for that long and they kind of like were so in and out. They didn't really have much like advice and it was also still really stigmatized when I was doing it. Like, it was not like TikTok glamorous, like fun to do it
God,
or
I hate
whatever.
strip talk.
Same.
Yeah.
It was like, if you do this, you can't have anyone find out. Like, that was when I
Right.
started. And so it was just kind of like, I can't be the only one that constantly feels like I'm screaming into a void. I can't be the only one that feels so isolated with my ex-partner at the time, where they knew what I did, but they hated it, so they were zero comfort to me. And I learned, like, you don't trust people easily there. So I'm like, I don't really have friends either that I can talk to, and I don't think my manager wants to hear me bitch about all of these things because I think he'd rather just fire me. And so
Wow.
that's why I started my blog, because it's like I love Reddit, but Reddit, it was like I noticed a lot of people embellish on Reddit, which was so weird to me because I'm like, you're using an anonymous account. Like, what the fuck is the point in lying about shit? Because someone would be like, because I noticed someone at a club that I used to work at specifically wrote on a night that I was there, because they wrote the name, like the entire date and everything like that, where they're like, I made X amount at this day and everything, and I'm like, I was there. That no one, no one was even there.
Like, it was dead. Like,
I'm like, I
okay,
saw
sure.
it. It was like, what are you talking about? So that's when I lost all hope in Reddit, at least in that way. But it was just something where I wanted people to know if they ever felt, whether it was alone, if they felt that they wanted something, where if they just didn't feel motivated to come into work because they were either like burnt out or something like that, I wanted them to have like a quote unquote like bad bitch thing to look like, hype them up, kind of like how guys do with like a gym playlist or like whatever it may be and stuff like that. Or if they just had an experience that they don't know is unique to them in the ways of, I don't know how to talk about this because I don't know if it's a normal thing or if it's just like this only happened to me or whatever. And to know that like there are people where on the internet it's weird. It felt like, for me, it feels like there's more community on Emotional Strippers like platform than it does in real life. Because it's
Oh
like
my
strippers
gosh.
from
Yes.
everywhere. Like, I have like people in London, like Australia, a lot of people in Europe and stuff in the States, and it's like they all are so there for each other, and it makes me so happy because I'll do little story posts of like, hey, what advice would you want to give XYZ for this thing? And it's like the answers that everyone does is so genuine and no one is mean to anyone. I'm like,
Hmm.
that's amazing. And
I
ironically, I
love
never
that.
would have guessed this. My audience, especially in the last, since I made the blog, so like almost 3 years, has been so many men. And in a,
Really?
ironically, in a good way,
That's
where
good. That's so nice to hear for once.
like I looked at my little, because you know, when you have a business account on Instagram, you can see like your follower demographic.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
pretty much like 48% men, the rest women.
That's
And I was
crazy.
shocked by that.
I thought it would
And
be
I had,
higher for women.
yeah, I thought so too. Like, I literally thought men would fucking hate my blog and that they would be like my customer reading it and saying, like, fuck you, why did you write this? And then in reality, I got the opposite, where I've had people who were my old clients, I've had people who were my current regulars, and even my managers now be
Oh,
like,
I love that.
thank you for writing this. And then other people being like, I don't know if I overstep boundaries when I've danced with either you or another dancer. Like, your blog really clarified these things because I didn't know if what I was doing was okay or not. And I'm like, thank you for like wanting to correct yourself and educate yourself. And then other people just saying like, thank you. Like, now I know how to treat sex workers of all forms, because even though it's so simple in my head, it's like, you guys are all human. So I'm going to treat as such. And I'm like, yeah, like we're real people.
Yeah. We have feelings too. Like I love everything that you said there, Sage. Like touching back to what you said earlier in terms of like the isolation part and the loneliness, like that happens a lot. Not just in times of transition, of course, in a lot of times, like when you're just starting something new and you don't know anybody and you're like, I have no one to talk to or confide in. It can be really, you can feel really alone. But I don't know, for a person like me, I'm actually pretty like independent and alone, and I do solo content, and like I'm in my room like camming and stuff, and even when I get to the club, like I'm actually quiet. So it's like it can be hard sometimes.
100%. Because, yeah, no, like, I'm pretty introverted. Like, I'd much rather, if I'm not working, if someone's like, what's your perfect Saturday night? It's like watching Netflix in bed with my cat and ordering like DoorDash or
Truth.
something.
Yes.
Like at the club, I'm quiet but bubbly at the same time, if that makes sense, because I'm like, I have to talk to humans.
Yeah,
But I'm
I get
like
you.
gonna be quiet, like not a woo girl, so to speak.
Yes. The woo girl.
Also, I learned that like the loneliness too also came a lot from like, oh wait, if you're successful and like say you had a really good night, you can't really brag about it, and not even brag about it, but just talk about like, hey, I'm proud of myself for hitting this goal, or this happened to me for my first time, whatever it is, because
Yeah, to
other
celebrate
girls
it.
will look at you as like competition, or like, why are you telling me this? I had an awful night.
Yeah.
And if you have a
Yeah.
bad night, it's like, yeah, there's going to be some girls who are there for you, but there's also going to be girls like thriving on just that, where it's like, thank God they had a bad night. I'm coming for their regular. Or, and finally, it's also like so isolating too if you don't feel like there's anyone at all there that can understand you with like civilian friends or people who aren't in the
Mm-hmm.
industry. Because I remember talking to some of my friends who've never done sex work about like my quote unquote bad nights, where I'd be in Vegas for like my first time dancing. And in my head, when I thought dancing in Vegas, it was like thousands of dollars in a night. And I'm like, now I'm like, hell no, that's not a realistic thing, especially if it's your first time going.
Yeah,
But,
totally.
so when I told my friends, like, oh, it was my first night in Vegas, I made $500 in 9 hours. They're like, that's amazing. And I'm like, what are you? No,
Like it's
that's
not that great.
no. And like
In
nine
9 hours.
hours? No.
Yeah. Like, do the math.
And we're like, but that's more than what I make in my job. I'm like, oh yeah, I keep forgetting that we cannot relate
Yeah.
on these things because I will sound like an asshole to you. And yeah.
No, I get it. I get it. Like, no, I'm the same way. And that's kind of like where I'm at with stripping personally right now. Cause I'm just doing the math and I'm just like, the math is not mathing. And I'm only there for like 6 hours. And it's just like, this is like less than minimum wage at this point. It's so freaking slow. I don't know. Like here in Vancouver, Canada, right now, it's like hella slow and it just feels really dry. And maybe that's
Is it
just me. I'm
contracted
not
or
the craziest. What
is it
I'm feature dancing up here.
contractors?
I'm feature dancing up here and it's
That's
slow.
awesome. Okay. Wait, so is Canada like self-employed still, or are they contracted?
Yeah, it's still self-employed, like still like independent contracting as well. But with us, we have to go through an agency, and I mean, you could drop in and do your VIP just like anywhere else in the world. But like for feature dancing here, like you get paid to dance on stage, you have shows, like all that stuff. Um, and just like the lap dances are really expensive, which is fine. But I feel like people are really feeling it now, and like they can't like afford it
Well,
anymore
no,
with
because
the
I got
economy and inflation. At least that's a theory.
no. I think I feel that too. Because also, like feature dances, when I've done them, it hasn't seemed like I could make my prices for a dance. And for me personally, it's like I wouldn't make it that high unless people were like, I knew they were only there for me type shit. Where it's like, if you guys are
Mm-hmm.
literally only here for me and I have sold out this entire club, then sure, this is fine. But if it's like the few people or whatever, it's like I don't think they will pay $100 a song if they're used to paying girls $20 a song. Like I will take the $20 over nothing.
Yeah, and lately it's been like hard, and I'm like not the craziest hustler, but I'm decent. But like it's like $50 plus a tip here for a private dance for a song. And like you get girls that come from everywhere else in Canada because it's really freaking expensive. It's only here in like British Columbia and like maybe Alberta. I don't remember the prices there, but like you get our Toronto girls and like Montreal girls come here to VIP, and then like they're like, holy shit, I thought it was gonna be this price. Like it's just a weird, strange place in the world where things are just done very differently here. And I don't know, people still pay the price, but for myself, like if I'm looking at like past calendar years,
Um,
it's not the same money. It's just not the same money, and I'm just like dividing the time I'm there by everything that I've made. I'm like, it's not really making any sense to me. I'd rather just stay home and make a little bit less money, but at least I don't have to leave my house and I can work like 2 hours.
no, I get that because I feel like for me, COVID was the best fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone, like
Do
but my
tell.
customer, they were like, wait, COVID was the best time? Like, yeah, we were one of the only places open and people weren't going out and spending money on other things. So they had a bunch of money
Ah.
saved up because it's not like they're going out to their like weekly or bi-weekly dinners or every night going out or something or going out partying, traveling, whatever. So yeah, they'd spend it on strippers and it was fucking awesome.
That's amazing. But then, like, when COVID stopped and went back to normal, then everything opened and the money wasn't good anymore.
It was okay still because people still had like their like the COVID checks or whatever. I forgot what they were,
Oh,
the
yeah.
stimulus checks.
Like stimulus checks. Yeah.
So people still had some of that, but it definitely like didn't last that long because people are like, oh shit, I can go do things now that I would have like I've missed doing. You know, like I miss traveling, these things. So I saw that kind of like go down. And then I've just noticed with different seasons too, like summer's slow because people's kids are like out of school and they're spending time with family.
Camping and stuff. Yeah. They're just
And like same
outside,
with winter,
outdoors, touching
it's
grass.
like Christmas and all of that. So it's like,
No, it's true. It's very seasonal. It's very seasonal. I just, for myself, I feel like I'm pretty much at the end of my rope with that, which is fine. Which is fine. I'm also just maybe becoming lazier now, or maybe wiser because I'd rather put my time and energy elsewhere. But it was good while it lasted.
as
Those
long as that's,
golden years are over.
I feel like my whole thing is like work smarter, not harder. So it's like,
Yeah,
if
me
it's
too.
that, we're here for it.
Yes. Like, I mean, with that statement in mind, is that one of the reasons why you're considering or like branching off into porn now too, or like, or just you just wanted to do porn in general?
So like I've always had a curiosity about porn of like that whole thing of should I do it? Should I not? I don't know, maybe the day will come, right? Like I definitely am super happy I did not start at 18. Like did not
Mm-hmm.
know my own boundaries. I didn't know half the things that I was into sexually. And I definitely, like looking back, would not have wanted a lot of my sexual first to be on camera because it's like if I didn't
Yeah.
like it, I wouldn't have wanted that video out there because I'd be like, I'm visibly not enjoying myself, you know?
Yeah.
And then it would make me just not want to try it again, like the sexual act in my personal life or in work. And there's something also just about like having people watch you grow up on the internet. I don't want that if I look back on it, where it's like at 18, I got my first tattoo, but I did that like 6 months after turning 18. So it's like cool, people would have loved the no tattoo look, but then the second I got it, then you get the hate comments and all of that. And then you actually grow up and you want to like experiment with your hair, your life, your body, whatever. But because you're already so publicized, whether it's social media or just like Pornhub, everyone has an opinion and a say. And it's just, I don't think I personally would have been able to handle people wanting to say something about every little thing that I was doing when it's like it's normal to make your 20s the time that you explore whatever the fuck it is. And so with porn, it's like I've always loved, like in my personal life, like filming myself with people that I've either dated or like had little flings with. And I'm like, wait, with porn, I get that, but like significantly better quality. Because I suck at making these things in comparison, because I just get the one angle shot. Because I am not going to get out mid fucking in my personal life to fix the camera. I'm like, I know what I'd want to brand myself as versus like having a company or whatever label and brand me themselves. And I knew my boundaries well enough to where I was happy to be on camera at that point where I'm like, cool. And then if I do that, then I'm also being able to create like more just kind of like overall revenue where my OnlyFans, it can be more popular because people, if they want solo content, they can subscribe to my page versus watching me get fucked on the internet if they want to see a solo video.
Right.
Or if they want like a custom one, they can do that. And
Gotcha.
just, yeah, it's been a fun time so far, at least.
It sounds like it. And it sounds like you're really just like, you know yourself a lot, like versus like, you know, when you're 18 and like even like, you know, going back into stripping as well. Like it just feels like with each chapter, you're just kind of learning more and more and more about yourself, which is so great, which is so awesome.
Yeah. That's like the one thing that I'm like, I wish sex work could do this for every human being in the universe, but unfortunately, it's like you have to do sex work, which is not obviously for everyone, if not most people. But I feel like for me, that's the only job I've ever had, or and even like experience that's forced me to learn this much about myself. Because I've never in my life thought I'd have to be like, do I like even if it's on set, strip club, anything, I'm like, am I okay with people pinching my nipple for a scene, a customer, whatever? And if so, like, how much would I charge extra for it if not, or if so, whatever? Where it's like, would never have to think these things. Or I never would have learned how to tell a man to go fuck themselves if they were doing some like very bad shit. Because I was always raised super polite and told like, you don't say that to people because the customer's always right shit.
Right.
No, the fuck they're not. They're not always fucking right. Half the time
they're usually wrong.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's so nice to be able to advocate for yourself and be able to know what you're in control of, which is ironically everything with your body.
Yeah.
I never would have had those experiences or thoughts ever if I did not do sex work.
Totally. Absolutely. Like sex work is one of those, it's probably, yeah, as you mentioned, like the only profession I feel like you are really forced to look at yourself and not just like physically, but also just like reflect on what you're comfortable with, what you want to do, because it really is your body and you use your body so much in this work
Where it's
in
like,
every aspect.
And also it's like when people say it's like easy money just because you have to like look pretty, it's like I fucking wish.
That's like one aspect of it.
And it's the smallest one too, where it's like, oh my god, if it was that easy in your mind, I wish, because then I could just be getting my foot rubbed like you guys are thinking and just sitting there blankly staring at someone while they're paying me But no, now I'm forced to have a conversation about shit with
Yes.
someone that I have nothing in common with, but we're gonna have it anyways.
Yeah.
Or just things like that, where it's like you really have to have a personality and you have to
Hmm.
be able to carry and have a conversation. Otherwise, you're never gonna have a regular.
Oh yeah, and those are things you gotta learn, like right from the get go. And it's just so it's like what you said earlier, like it's a lot of trial and error,
Oh yeah.
and trying things out, seeing what sticks to the wall. How many times you fail with your techniques,
Even just like
strategies.
looks and like how you brand yourself. Like I've had people get like not mad, but like just irritated that I'd say this. And I'm like, it's not me who's making this rule. I'm just saying it nicer than how a club manager would. So, like
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yes.
alternative and being hired at like a prestigious club in Vegas. And that's not just normal, so to speak. And so people would ask me like, how did you get hired here? Because I want to work there, but they rejected me. And I'm like, they care. Like, yes, I'm alternative because I had like green hair at the time too. So it was like tattoos and green hair. And I'm like, they care about the male beauty standard of America type thing. Like,
Mm,
that is what strip clubs thrive on. And
yes, it
I
is
don't
true.
personally, like, that's not my beauty standard for people, but it's like, that's just theirs. And I can't control or do literally anything about it.
Yeah.
Sure, I can rebel against it and cut my hair off and dye it fucking pink if I wanted to, but I'm not going to make that much money in comparison. So I just consider it like when I tell girls, it's like it sucks if you have to change like what your physical appearance that you personally like for yourself is, if it means making money or at least
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
But that's why it's like just think of it like a costume that you'd wear for work or like a work uniform where like crazy wings and stuff. Like I fucking love crazy makeup. I wish I could do it. I don't know how to. Props to people who can. But it's
You and
like,
me both.
yeah, but it's like you have to tone it down because with other guys, they don't know what like they think that's scary or because it's not
Right.
known to them. And it's so
Yeah.
bizarre to me. And so yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you with that. Like, we have specific clubs here in Vancouver that are like, you'll be more successful here
Yeah.
than here, kind of thing. Like,
Even if it's like body types, it
mm-hmm.
sucks. But it's
Yes,
like
but it's true.
yeah, where it's like I'm not even trying to be a dick. It's just this is how it is. Where unfortunately, like there are clubs like say in Miami or whatever where I will never get hired at them because I don't have like huge boobs or a huge ass.
Yeah.
And I'm totally
I would
fine.
never be able to do that. I
And it's
would,
like
I'm not on that level of like their version of hot.
that's what I mean, where it's like
Right.
I'm totally fine with that because there's other clubs that they don't prefer. They want someone who's either all natural or just like looks more on the like petite leaning end
Side.
kind of thing.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, every club has their preferences because they know what their customers want.
Mm-hmm.
Where the managers might find you super hot, but they just might think that they might not be able to make money off of you.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, when it comes to clubs, it's all about making money for
Exactly.
the club.
Yeah,
For the club. Okay? So, and that's a whole other topic we can I wish we had time for that topic, the spicy one. So,
right. Where it's like, again, I wish that like they would hire everyone and just see like because I know that it's more about personality than it is looks. Like,
mhm.
at least give people a trial run. I wish you'd let people work for one night as a trial run and see how they do.
Yeah.
If they fail and they hate it, whatever. If you wouldn't have hired them anyways, fine. But if you at
Yeah.
least wouldn't have hired them and they fucking killed it, give them that chance if they want it.
Yeah. I agree with that too. Like there was an article when the newspaper is here, like, talking about there aren't a lot of spaces for like queer and NB folks,
There really
trans
isn't.
folks.
No,
Yeah, there's like nothing like that here
no.
for those people, for that community, which really sucks. And like we
There's
love so many
nothing
great
here that
dancers.
I know of.
There's nothing there either, right?
That I know of.
There's no space for them.
Oh, and like I have
Yeah.
some trans friends at the club, and it broke my fucking heart when they had to basically force themselves to not identify as male anymore and force themselves to identify as female and go with
Oh,
like the feminine looks and things like that. And they would always like tell me how like dysphoric it made them feel and just how shitty it made them feel because the club would
yeah.
hire them if it was like if you have a different pronoun and if you especially don't have a feminine pronoun. And it's like that fucking sucks. I can't relate to that, but I can only imagine how like horrible that must feel not only mentally but also just physically where it's like
Both, yeah.
if I'm making more money off of a gender that I don't even identify with, that fucking sucks. And that will make me
Yeah.
feel like shitty at the very least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I can't imagine like the mind games it would, eventually, and like the mental stress it would have on you, and then like that like kind of like hacking at you over time. Like it just sounds so unhealthy, but they don't have a choice,
Yeah.
or they feel like they don't have a choice because there's no other place that will accept them for who they are.
Yeah,
It's
like
just
I've got
terrible.
like one of my friends again who like is trans. It's like they had such a hard time where like they lost one of their best regulars because they were like, I feel comfortable with this person because we like they were a great regular at the time. Of like they
Hmm.
saw my friend often, they spent really good money, they had great conversations. And my friend's like, I will confide that I don't go with like she, her pronouns, and it's actually like they, he.
Hmm.
Literally like lost that
Hmm.
regular. And I'm like, what the?
Oh
You're
my
not any
god.
different of a like what the fuck? Like there's nothing different about you as a human being. Where like, yeah, look
Yeah.
wise, if you're to meet in person, whether you decided to dress as your persona or not, up to you. But what the
Yeah.
person that you've been talking to for this long is no different. And so it was just
That
like
like switch off is, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like it's, and that's another topic too. Oh my god, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, Sage.
I
Like,
think it'll be fine like you.
I get where you're coming from. I totally understand. Like we've had so much similarity with like where we've dabbled in with work and stuff, and like I mean you've done a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of growing pains that we discussed like over the
Adult
last hour
puberty,
and a
weird.
bit. What's that?
Like adult puberty, but like weirder.
Yeah, totally. It does feel like puberty. I might have to steal that. Maybe call that that. Maybe that's like the episode title.
Please.
Puberty, but weirder. But it is. It's those growing pains and those weird, awkward moments. But like you just don't know how to navigate this industry, and like each corner of the industry has offered you different things and stuff. And I'm sure you might be dabbling in more things, as you expand your career. But I mean, I'm wondering before I let you go, like, did we miss anything? Was there anything that you feel like we need to touch on before we start promoting all your things and where we can
For
find
the
you?
overall message of like, if you're a sex worker, no matter what umbrella you fall under, like, just treat everyone the same way that you would want to be treated. Because even if they are a cam model and they don't do anything off camera, or if they're full service and they are not fortunate enough to be like the quote unquote luxury companion and they have to be on the street to make ends meet because it's survival sex work at that point. It's
Yep.
like, don't be that judgmental asshole because anyone can be in that position and anyone can also go from the survival sex work position to being like super, again, quote unquote, high end. So it's like you never know who you're talking with or to. And we're all in the same stigma regardless.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. And if you're a client,
Totally.
it's like we're all fucking humans.
Yeah,
We're all
that's
dropping
the bottom line.
people, like say we have kids, we're all dropping them off at the same places. We're buying groceries at the same places. It's not like we're separated.
Yeah.
Sex
Yeah,
work
there
you
shouldn't be
see
separation.
every day in your everyday life, and you would just never know it.
It's so true. I mean, that's such a good way to end the episode on such a positive note. But like not even just positive, but like just a real perspective on like sex work and what it is that we do and the impacts that and the challenges that we go through. So I mean, as I mentioned, I can talk to you for hours. Like you're so easy to talk to and it's so much fun. I didn't even look at my notes, which is amazing, but like for folks who are interested in carrying on conversations with you or wanting to find you or interested in your work and hadn't heard from you before, where can people find you?
So on Twitter, it's at SageXXXHunter. On Instagram, it's at SageXXHunter. Or for my blog for the sex worker community, and if you're a client who wants to be a part of it and learn more, it's just at Emotional Stripper. And my blogs are all link in bio.
Yay. We will add all the links to the show notes below. So if you haven't clicked on there, do your homework and do so. And speaking of homework, for all you listeners out there, if you want to help bring the show out to more sex workers, please share. And not even just sex workers, but like anyone. Because I know a lot of people that listen to the show that are not even in our industry, but are just curious about it, wanting to educate themselves, and they think the show is kind of cool. At least that's what I've heard from people. But please share. You can also like review the show, rate 5 stars on Spotify and Apple. Like that really helps a lot for people to discover the show. And just in talking about like what Sage and I were talking about earlier in terms of like there weren't any resources when we first started in the industry as a sugar baby. This is a great resource. Like share. I don't gatekeep here, so do your part in doing that. You can help someone out that way a lot, honestly.
I fucking hate gatekeeping, where it's like I'd rather help someone or possibly save someone's life if it's again I can teach you how to screen.
Yeah, totally. So please, people, do your homework. And if you want to get in touch with me, it's Stripped by Sia on X. I'm most active there. I'm getting more active on Instagram. I'm just scared my account will be suspended again. But Stripped by Sia podcast, that's the second account. So do the thing, because that has like way less followers than the original one had. And patreon.com/strippedbysia is where you can subscribe if you want to financially support the show. And if you want to be on the show, you can pitch me at strippedbysia.com. There's a contact page. I would love for you to fill out that form so I can just get to know what topic or topics you'd like to chat about. But yeah, please fill it out. Or if you have comments, I just had someone write in that they said they loved the last episode I did with Tara Patrick. So like amazing. I read them all. So thank you in advance. And we'll catch everyone in for another episode next Sunday, dropping at midnight Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us, Sage. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. You're amazing.
Thank you.
And I hope it's around for a very, very long time. If not ever. Like, please.
Thank you. I'm so flattered. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.